Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Today we're out here in the Pleiades sector taking a look at Aegis. Now Aegis, we all know by now, is the joint task force between the Federation and the Empire as well as the Alliance, originally tasked into researching Thargoid activity but now initiated as a defense force. Over the past few weeks they've created a number of anti-Xeno weapons and modules, many of which most people would have probably used by now. But that isn't Aegis' only remit. Beyond that, they have started creating systems out here in the Pleiades sector. They plan on creating 20, and so far I believe there is about somewhere between 3 and 5 already out here in the game. This is one of the latest Artemis Lodge, and it's in one of the most impressive locations for any station anywhere. Now something a little bit odd did come up there. You'll have noticed that the rings were below me and then suddenly they were above me, and that's simply because the station was located on the other side of the ring, so when I come out of Super Cruise there, it automatically positioned me on the opposite side of the ring. Now this particular star system is Seleno, right near the Maya system, both of which are 2 of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades. Now the question on many people's mind is precisely what are Aegis up to? I mean, they seem friendly enough after all. They are out here attempting to defend humanity from the Thargoids. But then again, there are many people who believe the Thargoids themselves, at least the ones that we have seen so far, are not much of a threat. Now, Admiral Aidan Tanner, Aegis' chief military liaison, had this to say: "In my view, it is imperative that Aegis has a consolidated presence in the Pleiades, close to the center of Thargoid activity. Fortunately, our backers in the Alliance, Empire and Federation agree with me." At a later date, Tanner went on to say, although the new shutdown field neutralizer developed by Aegis is capable of projecting small ships, we have encountered difficulties adapting the technology to larger spacecraft. Furthermore, the fact that Thargoids tend to target larger vessels with multiple shutdown beams simultaneously makes the task of protecting them more difficult. The fact that capital-class ships are more vulnerable to Thargoid attack means they are an ineffective way of protecting outposts, planets and shipping lanes. Consequently, for the present, the deployment of capital ships is not considered an effective defense strategy. So out here then in Artemis Lodge, you can see there is a nice shipyard here, and many people are probably going to welcome that news. It's one of the few stations out here that does have an active shipyard. It also has all the other niceties such as a passenger lounge, a mission board, as well as a crew lounge, so it's a good place that people may want to stop over and try and make a home here. It also has outfitting abilities, although the selection is very poor, and we'll have a look at that in just a moment. That said, it does allow you to, of course, to ship your own modules out here, meaning you can make this a bit of a base if you're out here trying to defend against or attack the Thargoids, depending on how you actually look at that. The subject of Thargoids themselves is a pretty divisive one, especially considering patch 2.4 at the moment, and in terms of gameplay, that's something I'll come back and have a look at in a future video. The subject of Thargoids is also a divisive one in terms of lore, with many of the characters within the galaxy having widely different opinions. Now whilst I'm talking here, do keep an eye on what's going on in the background, and you can have a bit of a look as to what is available in the outfitting screen. Now it's quite common for both INRA and Aegis to be mentioned within the same sentence. After all, they do share pretty much the same remit. INRA, of course, is now inactive. But this doesn't stop people within the galaxy having talked about it in public. Princess Aisling Duval recently had the following to say: "I read the INRA records, and frankly I was sickened. How could they treat living creatures that way? I've heard of governments inventing threats to support their military programs, but maybe that's what INRA was, a smokescreen." Senator Petraeus, on the other hand, takes a very different view. "I have reviewed much of the available intelligence on the Thargoids, and it is clear that we are facing a formidable threat. Granted, we do not know the reasons for their hostility, but in my experience, such details are rarely important. What's important is knowing where and when to strike." The formation of Aegis is, in my view, a sound strategy, and represents a sensible response to this threat. Furthermore, I know Aidan Tanner well, and I wholeheartedly believe he is the right man to be guiding Aegis' military strategy. So again, both INRA and Aegis being mentioned in very close proximity to each other. Lee Yong-ru, CEO of the Sirius Corporation, says this: "If there's one thing these INRA logs make plain, is that humanity is capable of defeating the Thargoids, especially when we work together. And remember, most of the galaxy is functioning exactly as it always has, despite the presence of these alien aggressors. So let's maintain some perspective, shall we? And yes, some may say that's a fairly apt comment on the pace of the current in-game story regarding the Thargoids. After all, in terms of what's going on in the game, things certainly are pretty much as they always have been. So perhaps, just maybe, it's past time things started moving forward. So here we are then in the Electra system, another one of the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, and yet another system in which Aegis have founded a new station. And you can see this one looks a little different to what we traditionally used to seeing. And the pillars here are used to create greater levels of gravity. As the station spins, the Coriolis effect creates gravity, and the further away you are from the centre of that spin, the greater the effect of the centrifugal force will be. So it's more than possible that Aegis are having some sort of gravity-based experiments going on at this station. So then, for those of you following the lore, for those of you interested in what's going on with Aegis, do you trust them? They've certainly been given a lot of power, and there seems to be a lot of story development around them in terms of what's going on in-game. And could they well cause more problems than they're able to solve? After all, many consider the Pleiades to be Thargoid territory, and with Aegis going here and building stations, is that just going to cause more problems? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.